You like coffee? Oh yeah. I want to like represent, so I'm going to like rotate so you all can see the Oaks label. Oh, I'm spilling it on me. Oaks is the best. Oaks is the best.
Alan, man, I love St. Elmo. And I'm so glad to be here shooting this video with you, talking about what God's doing here and what God's doing in you, man. So I don't even really know your story. I don't really know how you even came to be a part of Silverdale. How'd you get here?
It was pretty interesting story. It's totally God. It kind of started with my father-in-law gave me a text. He saw that they posted the job online, and I was planning on at some point moving back here anyway, because my mother and father-in-law were here, and you know, just the support with April and being sick and the kids and stuff like that. I mean, the kids aren't sick, but when he sent that to me, I got online and I, you know, talked to April about it, and we prayed, and we're like, well, should I do this or not? Because I was at a church already. And then we finally were just like, okay, let's send it in and let's see what happens, and God can do what he wants to do, you know? And it was totally God, man. I mean, I got an email from Taylor saying, hey man, I like what I saw, you know? Let's talk more. So we talked more, ended up coming down here, and ended up getting a job. This is the only place I applied for. So.
How about that? I'm so glad you did. I think you've just come into our culture, and you've just brought so much. It's exciting to have you here. And to have you leading worship really in two venues. You lead on Saturday night and on Sunday morning here, which is really, I guess, kind of a unique role in the music ministry scene, right? I don't see a lot of that.
Yeah. It's unique. It's two different campuses, and it's two different vibes, you know, but I love the people in each one of them, and Saturday night and St. Elmo, they're most gracious people I've ever met in my life.
We came to a point as a church where we realized building bigger and bigger and bigger worship centers to get more and more people to one spot wasn't God's direction for us. Putting campuses in communities where communities of people can come together and worship, that's the direction we're going as a church. And that really started here. When we left the Bonnie Oaks campus, this became our first off-site venue, and has grown into a really, really vibrant community where people are just coming to the Lord, growing in their faith. Being the children's pastor for a number of years, to go down and to be with the children and families was just so cool. I love what God's doing here.
Same here, man. It's a, like I said, it's a really cool, unique community here. It's when I walked in, my first time leading worship, of course, this was before I was on staff, but the stained glass windows and just the cool old churchy kind of vibe reminded me of my grandma's church, and I fell in love. I was like, yeah, this is going to be cool.
So have you always wanted to be a music guy, a worship leader? Has that always been your dream?
I kind of stumbled into it. I was actually a touring musician and stuff, and played and was actually signed to a couple labels and stuff like that. And all the while I was leading worship and playing for churches and stuff. And one time when I was on tour, I had been wrestling with the fact that I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, but I was made to be a worship leader specifically for the church and for the community, you know? And I was wrestling with that for like, years and years, because I loved what I did, touring around and playing, and it was it wasn't in a Christian realm of stuff, it was in a mainstream realm of stuff. But God finally got a hold of me and said, all right, I need you to stop. This isn't what I created you to do. I didn't create you to, I created you to be creative, but in a church setting, not as a singer-songwriter or even a traveling worship leader or anything like that. But I made you to be a worship pastor or a worship leader at a church. Not a pastor, but a worship pastor, or a worship leader. That's what I've created you to do, and that's what I've done ever since then. So.
I understand that your wife is very sick. So would you mind sharing a little bit of her story?
Yeah. It's actually a long story. I'll try to cut it down and make it short. But she actually had thyroid cancer before we got married, and she had her thyroid taken out, and we got married a month and a half later. Hope she doesn't kill me for saying that wrong. But yeah, and a month and a half later, and I might be telling a little bit too much, but she was diagnosed with MS too. So after that, about 3 years ago, we were in the hospital. She had to go in, and she just called me and said, my back's hurting. I think it's my gallbladder or something like that. So we went in, and we found out that she had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It spread to the bones. And then she went through chemo, and about a year later, she had a seizure, and we found out that it had spread to the brain. And she had the full brain radiation and got rid of it all. And then like 6 months later, some lesions came back, and that's what we've been dealing with. But God is good, man. One of our radiologists came in. It was pretty, I know when he came in and I shared with you, it was pretty bleak. But this radiologist came in and just said, no, we got this that can help her now. So, I mean, it's been crazy how God has kind of worked, even though you ask all these questions of why this, why her, why us right now? Still kind of 12 years in our marriage, but my faith is in God and not in man. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because if it was in man, then it would have all been eradicated, But since my faith is in Jesus, Jesus got me through, God's got me through all that stuff. And my wife and my family. And it's just been, I've learned a lot of things that were important to me before aren't important to me now. What's important to me now is to make sure that whoever I'm around worships God. What I want people to say of Alan when I'm gone is that God worked through him, and you can see that God was in his life, and he really loved Jesus, and he made me want that same love. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. It does make sense. Thanks, man.
Thank you.